Alright, I'm going to try and record my audio using Audacity because for some reason using the default sound recorder in Windows, just no. So now we got the first event under our belt, it's time to wait for the second event. Now, I was just messing around here, but it turns out I actually needed to do this stuff because this game has a horrible level up system. Now, what's going on here is that I'm showing off all the duelists you can fight. I'm pretty sure you can't fight these guys until you do the first event, but who knows. So, continuing on from what I was saying, as you already saw, there's the level up system with using a lot of duels to get experience, to go up a level, which is all fine and everything, but it can be a bit frustrating. What happens is you have to be a certain level for an event to happen, which is very much unlike how the level up system worked in Duel Academy. That's the one thing I can admit that Duel Academy did completely better than this game. Whenever you're constantly dueling people, it can get kind of frustrating and repetitive and bleh. But Duel Academy had that only to a certain degree. You had titles given to you, and you could, go up to Obelisk Blue or Raw Yellow if you wanted. And, that's all fine then. You had a really, really cool exam system that I'm really sad to see was done away in this game. In this game, you have exams, but they're so gimped, and they're so freaking useless that there is nothing that they're really used for. I can say that Duel Academy had very cool ending and a very special post-game final battle you can unlock. You actually fought Chancellor Shepard, for Pete's sake, and he had some pretty good cards, but at that point you had every single card in the game. You had fought every single duelist in the game and beat them 10 times in order to get to the King of Games rank. Yes, I love how you could be the King of Games in that game. It was just very special seeing how you heard the title used so much in the original. Oh yeah, there's a duel going on. So what's happening? Actually, some pretty interesting stuff. This is another character that was made specifically for this game so that you could have a better learning curve. But still, you can see the bad AI here, because if he would have attacked my Harpy Elite 1, he would have just put me in between Iraq, a rock and a hard place. And I was just looking at his effect here, because I was wondering why he didn't do something smarter. And yeah, this guy's actually pretty hard. He has some pretty good cards for an early part in the game. You saw him use that pretty cool Curse of Aging tactic where he gets rid of my Harpy Lady sisters by using that to weaken her. And he still doesn't do something smart in getting rid of the card that's been causing him more problems. But yeah, he has a pretty neat Necro Valley deck. It's just, at this point in the game, it can very easily top deck you. If it wasn't for the menagerie of bad cards in his deck, then it would be considered a pretty good one. Kind of like how you'll see later on with Jane Yuki. Now, I got pretty lucky this duel because he only used it once, but it can be pretty bad if he starts getting the other ones out. Now, nothing really exciting is happening, so I can continue talking about, actually I could talk a little bit about Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships 2006 edition. Oh my goodness, that game. It improved upon Duel Academy, but only by a very small, very, very small margin. I'm talking... some of the first duels in the game have such better cards than you, and your starter deck is suddenly turned crappy on you, that you really wonder, what are they trying to do here? I mean, come on. There's a lot of jump cuts here where I'm just getting new people thinking, oh, I'm gonna duel them. Nope. In case you're wondering what's going on here. I'm trying my best to show off 2 new duelists that you have to fight in order to continue the game. The first one is here, Brier. But I want to finish my 2006 rant before I can start about the Brier and Beauregard rant in Duel Academy. 2006 had a good idea going for it, but seeing as World Championships 07 and 08 completely replaced 2006 by going more off of the idea better, kind of makes you wonder how much effort was put into 06. I mean, I think it came a while after Duel Academy did, and it did much better with the card arrangement, but again, a lack of plot made it so that you didn't really want to play the game over and over again. And also, the duelists were much better than you. Just, honestly, I can actually talk a little bit about Brier and Beauregard in this. The deck, some of the first deck ideas you fight against are people using skill drain and monsters with really bad effects, like Giant Orc, which has 2200 attack, but as soon as you attack with it, it's forced into defense mode, zero defense, meaning anything can kill it, and can't be put back into attack mode unless you use an effect or it's the second turn after it attacks. Meaning, unless you're really willing to protect that thing, it's not going to do much. However, a deck idea has skill drain out. Why they do that to you that early in the game, I don't know. But they did it, and they made you suffer. And I like how I was like, oh wait a second, I kept on using cards in my hand. That means the Muka Muka's weaker. Now about Beauregard and Brier. In Duel Academy, they were horrible, because, guess what? They had the same deck idea, and it was pretty mean, because you were put up against, like, Giant Orc and all those strong, high-attack monsters, and I don't remember for sure if they had or had not had a idea with letting them use skill drain to overcome those effects. But I do know that they were some of the worst duelists to fight in that game. Alright then, so trying to think of something else to say here about Brier. Well, yeah, in this I can talk about how they did well with Brier and Beauregard in this game. First off, the event is much better, just overall. And second off, they have different decks this time. Beauregard still goes off the idea of using stupid strong monsters to whittle down the opponent. But the AI is actually high in this game, so they don't really attack often. And here's Mindy, you won't get to fight her yet for some reason, even though she has some of the worst decks in the game. And then Brier has more of a piercing strategy where he uses cards that have the ability to go through defenses, which is what I really love. Ooh, something else I could talk about is why I love monsters with high defenses so much. Guess what? Duel Academy. Hey, you didn't see that coming, now did you? Yeah, Duel Academy had, like I said before, really bad AI. Oh, and there's how you see a registered duelist after registering them. You just get a little icon. It's nice for later on when you're trying to find those duelists that you can never register, and that's all you can find. And I think the last person I find here is Fontaine, who also had a pretty cool function you could use in the Game Boy game, but I'll talk about that after I do the whole defense thing. The AI was bad in that once you finally got to once you were fighting the opponents, that if you placed a monster face down, actually I'm not sure if it 9 times out of 10 they would attack it and have reflected damage, or 9 times out of 10 they wouldn't attack it. But I do remember that that game made me really start loving defense monsters, because they were so good compared with all the crap and stuff that you can be hit. I do it less in this game because, you know, the decks are actually better and you can do more themes, but that's besides the point. Now, Fontaine had a very, very cool function in Duel Academy that made getting all the cards actually feasible. What would happen is the ranking system was that if you failed the exam, like, very, very badly, you would get the rank of dropout student, which is, hey, what Chumley's at? Like, for most of the anime. Yeah, so anyway. Now, trying to get a good amount of money is where Fontaine comes into play. What she does is, if you find her and duel her and then win, not only will she bring your rank back up, which is really not that useful. I mean, you get your rank back up anyway with the exams, but she also gives you an amount of money equal to the amount of life points you have. And remember, you start at 8,000 life points. Meaning, if you can just keep up that for a good part of the duel, you're set. I mean, there's really nothing else you can say. You're set then. I always had a deck going on where I would just pick a deck with a lot of health recovery stuff while still using beatdown strategies. And sure enough, it worked very well. You could get a lot of money and then waste it all. Now here's where Beauregard kind of confused me. I did not expect him to have lightning vortex that early in the game. Usually it's something you would expect much later opponents to have, because heck, most opponents don't even have good trap cards in this part of the game, so why the heck would they have cards that used to be limited? And speaking of limited cards, this game is really, really screwy with their limited cards. I mean, what the heck? Cards that were limited and stuff aren't limited anymore. And then cards that should be limited and are limited later on in World Championship 2007 and World Championship 2008 aren't. Come on. Like, you can have unlimited amounts of some cards I can think of off the top of my head are Fissure, Reflect Bounder, Lightning Vortex, and that's about it. Something that Duel Academy also did better than this game was with its limited slash semi-limited slash forbidden decks. Now, a small spoiler in this game is, once you beat the main part of the game and you're in the after game, you can put in one forbidden card into your deck. But that wasn't in there in Duel Academy because they had a much better system. Every now and then in Duel Academy, what would happen is the system would be changed up a little bit. Meaning that cards that were forbidden are now limited, cards that were semi-limited are, well, actually I don't think semi-limited was really messed with that much. It was definitely forbidden and limited cards. Now, limited and forbidden cards, I'm pretty sure were never taken off the forbidden or limited list. They were always on those two at the very minimum. But still, it allowed for a decent change-up, so you could use cards you weren't able to and stuff like that, have to take cards out. This game has one set list that never changes, but there's the forbidden system that is changed up later on. And with that, we finally get to the next event, and yet another rant I can do. Jane Yuki and the games. Oh my, Jane Yuki and the games. I was just showing off all the duels I did before doing the next event. And because guess what? As soon as you try and hit the hay, guess who hits you over the head with a duel? That's right, this kid. Now, other than being one of the most hated characters in Yu-Gi-Oh!, as well as being just very annoying in general, with his decks in the games, this is easily one of the like I said, most hated fights in the game, especially for me. For me, it's because of how easily this guy can top deck you at any point in any game. I'm talking even when the game changes up a little bit. Guess what? This kid could still top deck you at any point. Heck, even in this fight, without any of the fusions that his deck is known for. He can top deck you with Skyscraper, overall generally stronger cards. Like I remember fighting him with my starter deck and somehow winning. Even though he has stronger cards like Gearfried the Iron Knight, and which has 1800, which is very high at this point in the game. And he has a lot of limited and semi-limited cards. I just can't talk enough about how this kid is so annoying. And then there's how he is in Duel Academy, which is odd, because even though he only has 2 fusions, they're both level 6 fusions, which means that the equip card fusion weapon, if I remember that correctly, fusion weapon can be equipped, meaning it can turn 2100 to 3600 and 2400 to 3600 to 2900. I are good at math. So you get very, so then they have to make him good by giving him a kind of a mixed deck. So what do they mix him with? Dragon cards. Guess what? Dragon cards are very, very good in the Duel Academy games. Those are usually where the strongest cards are at. And people have even gone as far as figuring out every single card this guy has. And guess what? Guess what he has in his fusion deck? FGD. Meaning, if he can get out 5 dragon cards, although this has never happened to me, he can get out 5 dragon cards and is smart enough to use it, then he can use one of the strongest cards in the game against you. So, even though Duel Academy was bad with its card layout and with its AI, Jane Yuki was still one of the toughest duelists in the game. And then this game makes it even worse because, first off, you can't really fully fight him at any time until the very end of the game when he has a very, very good deck that even in the file where I've already beaten the game up to that point and even haven't registered from beating him enough, it's very hard because he can still top deck you even with the amazing assortment of cards. I mean, whenever we get into much later parts of the game, you'll see just how many very good deck combinations you can start using by then. Because, you know, by then you actually have, oh, I don't know, variety in what cards you have. And so, with that, Yuki is getting close to being beaten. He almost top-decked me with that skyscraper, but not quite. The amount of monsters I have in my deck allows me to top-deck him. And even though this is just an interlude deck without any real theme in mind yet, I always try and get a couple of early game themes going on. Yeah. Even with this interlude deck with a bunch of monsters, I can still beat Yuki pretty handily. Of course, that's now. I mean, who knows what would have happened if he would have gotten better cards at better time like he always does in the after game. And other what ifs. But for now, we've won. And don't worry, people. You have to do more duels to unlock the next event, so hooray. I'm probably going to talk next time about just how duel oriented this game is compared to how Duel Academy was, but night is now.